back to another edition of This Racing Life. We've come to Lambourn to Daniel and Claire Kubler Racing, well known for their data and analytical approach to training. We're here at Sarson's Farm to find out more. I want to start with the yard because being able to come and see the yard in person, I was one of my most interested parts of it because I know how long you've been putting this together. And maybe Claire, we'll start with where it all began with the development of it, because it's not just building buildings, there's a big scientific approach to it from the get-go, wasn't there?
Yeah, we were very lucky. We bought it as an old farmyard, very run down. But yeah, got to start from a clean slate, knocked it all down. Dan got involved on the weekends, demolishing bits and pieces. Yeah, and we brought in different experts to help with the design of it. So the barns and the stables, very much. We had someone from Ireland help with the airflow calculations, because the health of the horse is just so important. The layout of the stables with back windows, so they've got different views to look at, nice big boxes, rubber matting, but yeah, it was just incredibly exciting to do it from scratch.
What was the main factors that you really put into the yard and building it? What was your number one priority?
Definitely the airflow and the health of the horse, and in terms of the mental health. So we got the turnout paddocks, that was really important for us. As I said before, the different views, and some of the stables are half and half with the partitions, so they can have a friend if they want, and some just are completely separate if they need that. Yeah, and I was quite fortunate. My brother's an engineer, so he came down for a year and a half to help, because it was all new terminology. We site and project managed it ourselves, so yeah, it was a big learning curve, but really enjoyable. The
staff are obviously a huge part of it, and having a big team ethic, and I love sort of sitting in with the team meeting approach, because that's something new. I haven't seen that much, but there's obviously a sense of camaraderie, the sense of that we're doing it as not just Dan and Claire, but it's everyone a part of it. Is that always been a big sort of philosophy to your team approach?
The one thing about sport is you're measured every day as a team, and our results get measured every day. And you know, for us as trainers, you know and you understand that there's going to be times where everything clicks and you have a run of really good results, and there's going to maybe be a time where things are a little bit below, and it's often not always that the horses are running badly, it's just that there's a variance to these things if you understand data. But trying to keep that morale, because you know people want winners and they want to be involved with winners, and it's just lifting that team and keeping the team together and keeping them motivated, and you need to provide ways that everyone's enjoying and they understanding the reward. And you know, in the team meeting this morning we talked about some of the horses that have sort of achieved career bests even without winning. Actually, if you go and look at their time form ratings in the last couple of weeks, then we had 4 seconds last week, but 2 of those horses ran the best ever time form and racing post ratings that they've ever run. So, you know, they have taken a step forward, and it's only a matter of time before they win again. So
let's talk a bit about the analytical approach to it, because you know, the people that are riding the horses need to be a part of that process, need to really understand why you're using analytics. How challenging has that been, sort of making sure that your approach to it is sort of then fostered in the people that are riding the horses?
When we started training, you're so much more hands-on, so your kind of ethics and culture really come through very easily. But as you grow, you are more removed from that direct contact all the time. So again, going back to mentoring, like we had an owner who took us through a core value exercise, and it was fascinating. We included the whole team in it, didn't we? And just coming up with lots of words to describe us as a team and why we're doing this. I mean, horsemanship was like number one, that love of the horse. But by having those set of values, it can help strengthen then the communication within the team. So having the team meetings and centering it around working together, or the analytical side of things. And it's just constantly involving them, isn't it? So when we do, you know, they do the quicker bits, it's sending the pictures from Equinity so they can see it. And they're so keen to know, and they're so competitive as well. Going, did my horse achieve one of the best times ever? Or, so it's great to include that.
So what's been, do you think, the biggest aid from an owner's perspective? What have they really thought, this is something that I've not seen in any other yards or anything else? Is it the gene testing? Is it the Equinity? What one do you think has really stuck out?
it very much does depend on the horse, and you know, we've got examples where horses have come to us and by doing a gene test you can see the horse needs stepping up in trip, or you've got other examples where looking at the stride data, it's obvious it's got a turnover that's very high, and that's a, you know, a sprinter, or you know, it does depend on the horse for you know, and sometimes it's a combination of those clues together.
It's the enjoyment of planning together as well, going, okay, these are all the pieces of the puzzle we've got, and this is now where we think we should go, and it's all building that picture. And yeah, well, I think we probably attract owners that love that more analytical approach and data driven, and you know, or it might just be a horse has lost its way somewhere and trying to help rejuvenate that horse and get it back to its best again. And I think, data is amazing, but you can never beat that horsemanship.
I mean, you've talked a lot about the health of the horses and making sure that they are at their best, at their prime physically, and you've also, the examples of your horses being at a older age for flat horses, 6 or 7, but still achieving career best. That must be a very satisfying part of this whole puzzle, to see that the longevity is there, and that's really, really crucial.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell Claire, she's been a fantastic example of that. Coming second last week at Royal Ascot was just incredible. Back in the day when we bought her as a yearling, she was scared of her own shadow or a puddle on the floor, and just seeing her mature and develop over the years to just keep getting better year after year, it's very rewarding.
And I think our whole programme with young horses particularly is designed, it's based on, you know, research out there about the best way to develop bone, skeletal bone, and that creates a longevity down the line that you then reap the rewards on. And it's not just about trying to win a 2-year-old race as quickly as possible. And you know, I think there's a danger in the industry that too many people are after a very quick result, and that maybe isn't always for the best long-term health of the horse. And I think it's really important as an industry that we really start paying attention to developing horses for the long term as well. And you know, if a horse is ready and physically able, there's no reason why they can't run in April as 2-year-olds and win in April in 2-year-olds. But you shouldn't be trying to make every horse do that. It's about using the data available to you and training programs. You know, there's so much research about how bone develops and how it adapts and models, that actually if you can produce horses that can have long careers and keep running at a good level for 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons, you know, that's great. And you know, and as an owner, you're not then having to go back and buy a new horse every year because the old one's worn out, which I think we have to be very careful as an industry that, you know, we do look to, it's, you know, partly in how we breed horses, but also how we train horses. And you know, I think that's very important.
We've come to the outskirts of Newbury to meet Cheltenham Festival winning jockey Steve Jobar, who last year was diagnosed with motor neuron disease. We've come to hear more about his story and the fundraising efforts between himself and his wife Dottie. Steve, can you please tell me about your day-to-day life and how things have changed since your diagnosis?
My day-to-day life has always started taking out dogs for a walk. This hasn't changed, so they are relatively good at keeping me fit, and they won't allow me to lay in the morning. I have a multitude of friends that are always asking me for help with their projects, and so I'm quite often sort of kept busy, not with work, but with helping in demo in that respect, for the expertise I have over the years in the building trade. It's not health-wise, that part of it is fine. The big issue on a day-to-day basis is obviously my speech, which has got much worse over the last 2 months even. Eating is always an issue as well. Where I used to be able to have my dinner in 10 minutes. Now it takes over an hour, and everybody else has left the table, and I'm still eating cold food.
Yes. And how much information did you know about motor neuron disease when you were first diagnosed?
Robert and Kevin symptoms have been very prominent on the TV, so we were aware of it through them. But we've had a friend of ours die of it, but it didn't really register with us what it was that she died of. And I think how old was
she was only in her 50s.
Yeah.
And but that was my fear when Steve started. I knew that his speech just wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
But with her, it was in her mobility.
Okay.
And that's one of the problems with MND. People think they're just being clumsy because they fall over for no reason. And so it's very easy to say, oh, stop being so clumsy. And I've heard several people say that it's happened to people that they know in that way. And it's taken a long time to get the diagnosis. But with Steve, it was a slurring of the speech that I noticed. And then I asked other people if they'd noticed it. And then occasionally it was, well, I think he had too much to drink. But Steve doesn't drink, so
Yeah, you knew.
that was it was a fear that might be what it was for me, because I'd seen it with Sandra, a friend of ours.
And was it at that point easy to go and get recognised help? Do you go to the doctor? Because the doctors, how much does a general practitioner know?
We were first put to a neurologist with diagnosed it as MND. But he said, yes, that's exactly what you got.
Yeah.
Come back and see me in 3 months. There was no medication or any other kind of advice coming from the specialist.
No, we had to wait.
Sent home with an MND diagnosis, but really there's nothing that they can offer you whatsoever.
And then, so you take yourself away, and you've been as positive as you can with in despite of what is quite a scary time for you. But tell me, how important has the support of the racing community been with the diagnosis and supporting you through this time?
Well, it has been incredibly moving. How all my old friends from decades ago have come out the woodwork from the racing industry, specifically led by Jonathan Powell, but people that I wrote for in the past, like David Redvers,
came here.
came down to see me from Newmarket. A multitude of my old friends have been in touch, and they've all put their minds together in an effort to help racing add to the effort of the rugby industry and raising the awareness of this. One of the relevant things about it, as far as racing is concerned, is that it only seems to affect fit, healthy people. And so that's why a lot of sports people get noticed, because it affects that kind of industry more than ordinary everyday people.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like rugby, you touched on it, they've done an amazing job to raise the profile and awareness and fundraise. And I know, Dot, that's been a big, big part of your efforts over the last while. Can you tell me a little bit more about the fundraising efforts?
Well, I just cannot thank the MND Association. I don't know where I would be without them, because they are simply amazing. They are all volunteers, and nearly all of them have lost a family member or a friend, and they are so helpful. You can say, oh, I don't know, what about this? And they help you, and they have an answer. But not only that, if you need something, somebody much younger than Steve maybe loses his job because he can't work anymore with small children, and they're there to say, what can we help you with? What can we do for you? And they're just lovely, lovely people, and that's all done through fundraising.
Yeah.
And in fact, the MND Association gave the Royal Berkshire Hospital cough assist machines, which, you know, they've raised all that money to get things like that, and they've given them to the hospital to help MND patients. It's quite staggering what they do.
Yeah.
And they're just so friendly, and they don't make you feel stupid. You know, oh, this is stupid woman on the phone again. They're really, really lovely, and I think it's so important to help them, because what we're doing is helping our helpers, if that makes sense. So we've decided to raise as much money as we possibly can. It's a big project that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's quite something, but with the help that we're getting from people like Jonathan Powell, John Frankham, all the racing people that have all come to help us to do these things, we are getting there.
Yeah.
And so we want to split it 50-50. 50% of it will go to research, because we really need to find something to do something about this awful disease. And then 50% to our local branch, who help us with everything that you need help with, really. So, so our aim is to try to raise enough money to pay for all our overheads.
Yeah.
So that then we know when it comes to the race day, which is in March next year, everything that we take on tables or auction or whatever, that's all going to the MND Association. So
Newbury next March.
It's all accumulating with Newbury next March. We have an incredibly long and entertaining list of items in the silent auction.
Yeah.
There's going to be some really big, important things auction live on the afternoon. John Frankham is helping as the auctioneer.
Yeah.
There's going to be a dinner and tea during racing that afternoon. I think it's going to be an incredibly entertaining afternoon. There's a herd of race in my name, which Newbury have kindly offered. So, we are nearly full now for the capacity in the big stand. I try to look on it more positively than not. When you look at the people that are in the news, they're relatively young sports people with young families. I am basically live most of my life now, So I have got that behind me, whereas these people are still in the prime of life. So if I can do something positive, I will do whatever I possibly can.
If anyone is interested in wanting to know more about it, or wanting to come along, or even wanting to donate, how should they do that?
Well, we've got a Facebook page with Steve, which is Steve Jobar 2023, and an Instagram page, which is the same, Steve Jobar 2023, which is being looked after by my daughters because we're not very good at it. And but they're fun. We're trying to make it as positive, because you can't find anybody more positive than Steve.
Yeah.
He's, as far as he's concerned, everything's going to remain exactly the same. So, and on that, there is a link to the Just Giving, so they can do a Just Giving donation if they would like to. And as far as the race day goes, if anybody would like to sponsor towards the catering or whatever, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Or if they want to give an auction prize, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And the more the help we can get,
The better.
the more money we will get, and let's beat this dreadful disease.
50 miles up the road, we've come to Gloucestershire and the world-renowned Tweenhills Stud to see the foals, yearlings, mares and the stallion roster, headed by the fastest 2,000 guineas winner we've seen to date, Kameko. Well, David, it's been a treat to come to Tweenhills for the first time. You must be very proud of what you've built up. How do you sort of see Tweenhills at the moment in 2023, from where you started to where you've got to now?
Well, as anybody knows who works with stallions, it's your fortunes are constantly changing. We're always on the lookout for new stallions. What the stallions we've got here currently are hugely exciting. It's going to be a massive year for us this year with Zoustar and with the Roaring Lion 3-year-olds, which leads on to next year with Kameko's first 2-year-olds. You know, we've had some pretty rotten luck in the past with losing Havana Gold this year. Just one of those things, and Roaring Lion when we lost him in New Zealand. So really the quest is to constantly find a replacement, to find the next one. And it's something that's completely engaging. You know, from morning till dusk you are, and for most of the night you're thinking about where's the next one going to come from. And when you've got a stallion, you're thinking about his first foals, his first yearlings, his first runners. So you become completely invested in it, and that's really what a farm like Tweenhills is. It's not just an office. It's very much our home. It's been in the family for many years, and it's obviously grown a lot over the last few years. So we're constantly looking at how we improve it. But you know, it's a home, it's a lifestyle, it's a wonderful thing to be part of, particularly on a June evening like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Take me back to obviously when Roaring Lion was running, and then you sort of knew that he was going to be the perfect fit as a stallion here, and then Kameko came so quickly afterwards. It must have been quite a special time to think that this is what you've been building up to. Obviously you've had the bad luck with Roaring Lion, but you were sort of always sort of waiting and trying to find it, and then it did sort of manifest. And it's sort of a part of a puzzle that, you know, you've always been searching for, really.
Absolutely. I mean, Sheikh Fahd and his brothers have invested a huge amount of money into British racing since, you know, it must be 14 odd years now since he's been, since he sort of knocked on my door, if you like. And we had lots of very good horses, you know, from Dunedin, and some wonderful fillies like Simple Verse and Lightning Pearl, and all the way through we've had really great horses, but we've never had a real champion, the champion that everyone was talking about, that champion that basically made the year fly by. There's nothing like a good horse, a proper horse, to make time disappear. You know, so we were going from one race to the next, and so when it became obvious that he was that genuine champion, that he had this massive fan club support base, that every breeder wanted to use him, and you know, it was incredibly exciting. And because we had Zoustar coming to stud that year as well, who was a stallion that was really, really capturing the imagination worldwide, you know, that very definitely felt like, you know, we'd finally sort of got where we needed to go. And we spent an awful lot of money on Tweenhills in the run-up to that. knowing that we could no longer be, Sheikh Fahd used to joke, you know, the farm in the middle of nowhere, and that we now needed to really up the game. And you know, since that's happened, we've got world-class facilities here that I feel very proud showing to anybody. We've got a world-class team. I have to say the thing I'm probably proudest about is the fantastic group of people that we've gathered around us over the last, well, you know, 15 years probably, from an office team who are just brilliant fun and very hardworking and just love what they do to just a great team around the yard. We had you know, we had 36 in for the Christmas party, and we had a party on the Sunday night before Ascot, where half of Australia seemed to turn up, and you know, seeing them all engaging with everybody and enjoying themselves was one of my prouder moments. So it's a constant evolution. We're very proud of what we got, but I'm absolutely conscious of the fact that it doesn't stop here. You know, if something happens to one of these stallions, we're right back to square one. So it's a case of keep looking, we'll find one, and hopefully the boys that we've got here are all going to step up massively. And I think we're in a pretty good place.
Obviously, the sport is massively humbling, and when something like what happened with Roaring Lion happens, it must be, you know, as the team leader, sort of getting everyone back on their feet. But then, when you see the first crop, the only crop, do what they've done, it must make you feel that little bit more emotional, but also more proud, but then also quite humbled by the whole process. So to have them there on the ground, sort of fighting that in the same sort of spirit that Roaring Lion did, must be quite meaningful.
Yeah, I think you hit a really good point there. The bit that I've found that we've all really enjoyed is the tenacity, the fact they lower like he does, they quicken like he does. They're not. Let's be honest. They're not fast horses as a rule. They're fast horses in that they run faster than many others over 10 furlongs, but they're basically 10 furlong horses with a few milers thrown in. But they try, and they have his mannerisms and his way of going, and that's something that you know, for us, we obviously love the horse with a passion. I mean, he lived in that stable right outside my kitchen window. Saw him every day, and Kameko is now in his box, so they're very much part of the family here. So to see his stock do that was great. Obviously, it would have been an awful lot greater if he was still standing in that stable. But we've now got, you know, we can't keep going on about it. It becomes very boring for everybody. You know, it's part of our journey. It's something that we had some amazing highs, we had some desperate lows, but we're now on to the next and onwards and upwards.
They're retired, they've done the hard days racing. We like to see them living out in the fields as much as we can. So we're very lucky this time of year. Kameko loves his paddock. He'll be out there all day, every day, enjoying that. But Zoustar is the exciting one. He actually shuttles to Australia. He leaves us this week actually to go and start his pre-export quarantine in Newmarket. So he has to do 3 weeks in a quarantine facility where we send the guy with him looking after him, and he just has to pass all the correct health protocols to be able to fly to Australia. And then it's quite simple. We load him on a plane at Stansted, and 2 days later he arrives in Australia, hopefully.
How would you define the three of them as people?
Yeah, Kameko's in his teenage years for definite. He's lovely, but he's a cheeky chappy. He's always having a little nip at you and all sorts like that. Whereas Lightning Spear's slightly older and he's a maturer horse, and you could leave anyone with him. There's lovely stories of when the Simcocks trained him, of the young children looking in the stable with him and all sorts. And he's still the same now as a stallion. You could do the same with him. And Zoustar's the ultimate professional. He comes out, he pricks his ears every time. He likes to show off, he knows he's good. But no, they are very different characters, but we're very lucky. They're so easy. They settle into our routine, and everyone gets to can look after them. They're lovely horses.
That's it for this week's edition of This Racing Life. Thank you to Daniel and Claire Kubler, to everyone at Tweenhills, and of course, Steve and Dottie Jobar. See you again soon.
Subscribe to Racing TV's YouTube channel now to watch more great races like this.